Hi, I'm Ryder, 23, and the last time I spoke to my parents was the day they handed my brother the keys to a brand new $45,000 Toyota Tacoma, and handed me a used backpack with his initials still stitched on it. I wish I were making that up. It was graduation day, and my whole extended family was there in the backyard, sipping sparkling lemonade and waiting for the big surprise my parents kept hinting at for weeks. "Just wait, Ree, you're gonna love it," Mom had said, eyes gleaming like a magician about to pull off the final trick. So, picture it, balloons, a table sagging with catered barbecue, and a big-ass tarp covering something in the driveway. Dad claps his hands like an overexcited game show host and pulls the tarp off, to reveal this gleaming, metallic gray beast of a truck. Brand new. Not a dent, not a scratch. Leather interior, custom stereo, backup cam, the works. And standing next to it, grinning like he just got knighted by the Queen, was my brother, Mason. He's a year younger than me. Didn't graduate with honors. Didn't even finish his community college Gen Eds yet. But apparently, according to my parents, he needs it for work. He's been doing part-time construction with a family friend, which somehow justified the most expensive thing they've ever bought anyone. I clapped. I smiled. I even hugged Mason and told him, "That's sick, dude." But something in me was already buckling. Then Mom turned to me and said, "We didn't forget you, Ryder," and handed me a gift bag from some random souvenir shop. Inside was a worn North Face backpack. Definitely used. I pulled it out, turned it over, and yep, M.L.W. stitched right onto the back pocket. Mason's full initials. Not even removed. Just handed to me like a spare pair of socks. No check. No speech. No, "We're proud of you, son." Just a backpack that smelled vaguely like weed and gym socks. I didn't say anything. I just stared at it while everyone went back to celebrating Mason and his new wheels. A few people clapped me on the back like I was supposed to be grateful for my hand-me-down. I stood there holding it like it was a bag of trash someone forgot to throw out. And that was it. No big announcement, no redo. Just the most humiliating, painfully clear confirmation of something I'd always suspected but never wanted to believe. I didn't matter to them. Not in the way Mason did. Later that night, while everyone was asleep, I packed that same backpack with my laptop, a couple t-shirts, and a half-used notebook, and I walked out the front door. No note. No message. Just silence. That was 6 months ago. They haven't heard from me since. And now it's December, and suddenly I'm getting texts like, "Where are you?" And, "We miss you at Thanksgiving." And, "You better be home for Christmas." As if I just forgot to RSVP. The thing no one ever tells you about cutting off your family is that the silence feels like both a wound and a weapon. That first week, I stayed with my college roommate Darren, who lived in a basement apartment with exposed pipes and a pet snake named Jello. The bed was an air mattress, the shower took 5 minutes to heat up, and I felt freer than I ever had in my entire life. Every time my phone buzzed, I let it. Mom tried guilt first. "It hurt us that you just left like that." Then came the confusion. "Why are you doing this to your family?" Finally, the cherry on top, classic dad logic. "You know Mason would have shared the truck if you just asked." Yeah. Because nothing says love like borrowing the thing they gave your sibling and didn't even pretend to offer you. I muted them all. I got a part-time job delivering groceries and picked up freelance web design gigs at night. I still had my degree, computer science, minor in digital systems, so I built a portfolio from scratch. Word spread faster than I expected. A bakery hired me to rebuild their online ordering system. Then a bike shop. Then a wedding planner who paid me more for 2 weeks of work than my parents had ever spent on me in my entire life. But the anger didn't fade. Not even when I got my first real apartment, 400 square feet of peeling paint and freedom. Not when I bought my own used car with money I earned. Not even when I landed a retainer contract with a regional chain of coffee shops. Because the thing that sticks with you isn't just the inequality, it's how casual they were about it. Like it made perfect sense that my little brother needed a truck and I needed, what? A reminder of where I stood in the family hierarchy? I remembered all the times growing up when Mason got first pick. He got the new phone. I got the hand-me-down. He got basketball camp in the summer. I got a lecture on earning your own way. He crashed a dirt bike into a neighbor's fence, and they bought him another one a week later. I broke a laptop screen and had to use the school library for the rest of the semester. And every time, I made excuses for them. Told myself they were stressed, or broke, or just didn't know how it looked. I made it make sense. Until it didn't. So when December hit, and I saw families stringing up lights and drinking hot cocoa and gathering for their golden Christmas card lives, I didn't feel sad. I felt nothing. Just numb. Until I got the group text from Mom. Christmas tree family dinner, December 24th. Hope you're coming home this year, Ree. We miss you. Christmas tree. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just an invitation. Like nothing ever happened. That's when I snapped. So I did something I wasn't sure I'd ever do. I answered. I waited a whole hour after getting that Christmas Eve invite, then sent one message, short and sharp. Are you serious? No reply. Not for hours. Then finally, at 10:34 p.m., Mom wrote back. We just want things to go back to normal. I stared at those words for so long my eyes hurt. Normal. As if normal meant being overlooked, dismissed, and handed your brother's used belongings like that was somehow supposed to be meaningful. Like I'd imagined the hurt, and the imbalance, and the years of playing emotional second string in my own damn family. So I wrote a reply I never thought I'd have the guts to send. You gave Mason a brand new truck. You gave me his used backpack with his initials still on it. You looked me in the eye and said it was practical. Do you have any idea how humiliating that was? The typing bubble popped up instantly. Then vanished. Then popped up again. Another hour went by. Then my dad texted. Just one sentence. We didn't mean to hurt you. That was the moment. That stupid little sentence? That's what broke me open. Because of course they didn't mean to. That was the problem. They didn't even see it. They didn't think twice about what that gift said. They never asked how it would land. Because in their minds, Mason was the son worth celebrating. And I was the one who'd figure it out on my own. So I decided to write them a message they would think twice about. Not a rage text. Not a guilt trip. A breakdown. Cold. Precise. A numbered list. I sat down and wrote. Why I'm not coming home for Christmas. You treated my graduation like a footnote. You gave my brother a $45,000 truck and gave me a hand-me-down. You never apologized. Not once. You texted me only when my absence became inconvenient. You still haven't acknowledged how that night made me feel like garbage. You told people I was being dramatic when I didn't show up for Thanksgiving. You never once asked why. You act confused now, but the truth is, I've been invisible in this family for years. And worst of all, you still think I'm going to come crawling back just because it's the holidays. I hit send. No emojis. No warm wishes. No. Love you anyway. Just that. And the silence that followed? That silence was perfect. I turned off my phone. I closed my laptop. I walked outside into the cold night air, hands stuffed in my pockets, heart thudding like I just jumped off a cliff. Because that was the moment I realized something. I wasn't scared anymore. Of disappointing them. Of being seen as the difficult one. Of walking away. That night, under strings of lights hung by people who actually meant it when they said, I'm glad you're here. I finally understood something no backpack, no truck, no Christmas dinner could ever give me. I mattered. Even if they couldn't see it. 3 days after I sent that message, 3 full days of radio silence, my brother texted me. Mason. Of all people. Hey man. Didn't know you felt that way. Mom's been crying. Dad's all weird. You good? The audacity of it nearly made me laugh. You good? Like I just skipped dinner or bailed on poker night. Not ghosted the entire family because of a decade-long hierarchy where I rank somewhere between the dog and the recycling bin. But I didn't respond right away. I wanted to see what he'd say next if I didn't make it easy. 30 minutes later, another ping. Look, I get that you're mad, but it wasn't like I asked for the truck. They just gave it to me. That one got under my skin. Because yeah, he didn't ask. He didn't have to. He just accepted it, like always, and never once looked sideways to see if I was standing there empty-handed. So I finally replied. You didn't ask, but you also didn't ask why I walked out. You didn't ask what I got. You didn't ask how that felt. He read it. Didn't answer for hours. Then, finally. What did you get? My thumb hovered over the screen. It was tempting to unload. To tell him about the backpack, the initials, the awkward silence as I stood there like a forgotten side character at my own celebration. But I didn't have the energy for that kind of charity. So I sent him a photo. Just the backpack. Sitting on my floor next to the shoes I wore the night I left. You could still see the MLW on the front. No caption. No explanation. He sent back. Damn. That's messed up. Yeah. It was. Then came something I didn't expect. I didn't know. I'm sorry, Ree. That's not right. And for a second, I felt something weird. Like a hairline crack in the wall I'd been building since June. Not forgiveness. Not even relief. Just surprise. Mason, golden boy, truck recipient, casually privileged Mason, was admitting it was wrong. It's not your fault. I replied. But you got to choose what you do with it now. He sent a thumbs up emoji. Which, okay, still piqued Mason. But then, a few hours later, I got a Venmo notification. $500. 00 from Mason. Note. For a new backpack. With your initials. I stared at that screen for 5 straight minutes. It wasn't about the money. Not really. It was the first time someone in my family had acknowledged the gap. Not the gift. Not the drama. The difference. The quiet, yawning space between how they treated me and how they treated him. A week later, a small brown package arrived at my door. Inside was a black leather backpack. Brand new. With RTW stitched into the side in clean silver thread. No note. But I didn't need one. That was his apology. And somehow, it landed harder than any speech could have. The next person to reach out was Mom. And let me tell you, it wasn't an apology. It was a production. First came the group email with the subject line. Bringing the family together, my holiday wish. Like we were starring in a Hallmark movie and not living out a decade-long slow-motion emotional train wreck. Then came the message itself, long, winding, overly capitalized, with every cliché from, "We've all made mistakes," to, "This family has been through a lot this year," to my personal favorite, "I may not always show it, but I love my sons equally. Ma'am, you gave one of your sons a literal truck, and the other a moldy JanSport that smelled like Axe body spray and disappointment. Equal? Be so serious." I didn't reply. Not to the email, not to the follow-up text, not even to the voicemail where she sniffled into the phone and said she was just trying to make Christmas special. But what did catch my attention? A knock on my apartment door 3 days later. I opened it expecting Amazon. It was Mom. Hair curled. Makeup perfect. Coat I hadn't seen since my cousin's wedding. She stood there holding a tin of peppermint bark like she was auditioning for forgiveness. "Hi," she said. I said nothing. Just stepped back and let her in. Because honestly, I wanted to hear what she came up with. She walked in like it was fragile ground, sat gingerly on the edge of my couch, and looked around the place like she couldn't believe I lived without monogram towels. "It's cozy," she said. "I like it," I said. Then added, "All mine." She gave a tight little nod. "I figured you wouldn't come home, so I thought I'd come to you." And then she launched into it. The kind of performance only moms can deliver. The regret monologue. The misty-eyed delivery. She even tried the whole, "When you're a parent, you just do your best, and sometimes you don't realize." I stopped her. "You do realize," I said. "You just didn't think I'd say anything. You didn't think I'd leave." She looked wounded. "That's not fair." "It's completely fair," I said. "You want things to be normal again, but I don't. I don't want the version of normal where Mason gets praise and new keys and I get silence and hand-me-downs. I don't want to come back to being your afterthought." She blinked slow. Swallowed hard. Then whispered, "You were never an afterthought. You handed me his old backpack like it was a prize." I said, "You didn't even remove the initials. Do you understand how that felt?" She looked down. And for the first time, she didn't try to deflect. Didn't try to reframe it as practical, or symbolic, or just a mix-up. Instead, she said, "No. I didn't understand. But I do now." I waited. This was the part where she usually pivoted. But this time, she didn't. She just pulled something out of her purse, a small white envelope, and set it on my coffee table. "I know you don't want money," she said. "But this isn't about that. This is just me trying to see you. For real." Then she got up, hugged me, lightly, left. I didn't open the envelope for hours. I just sat there, staring at it. Part of me was convinced it'd be a check. Or worse, a gift card to some store she thought was techie. But when I finally opened it, there was no money. No fancy card. Just a photo. Of me. 10 years old. Sitting at a school science fair, beaming in front of my volcano project. One hand covered in papier-mâché paste. The other holding a first-place ribbon. And written on the back, in her handwriting, "I'm sorry I missed this. I should have framed it. I should have seen you. I do now." It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was a beginning. I didn't go home for Christmas. But for the first time, it wasn't out of spite. It was choice. Instead, I spent the holidays on a rooftop in the city, wrapped in a thrifted coat, surrounded by friends who had once been strangers but who saw me, fully and without conditions. Darren grilled hot dogs on a portable stove. His girlfriend brought tamales. We drank boxed wine out of mugs and watched snow fall between buildings, and someone played Blue Christmas on a Bluetooth speaker that kept cutting out. It was the best Christmas I've ever had. And on December 27th, I launched my company. Not officially, not with champagne and media coverage, but with a post. A single LinkedIn update that read, "When your family gives your brother a $45,000 truck and hands you a used backpack, you have two choices, shrink or build." I chose to build. Under it was a screenshot of the beta version of my startup, an app designed to help small creators sell, schedule, and manage their services without getting gouged by third-party platforms. I'd coded most of it alone, in that tiny apartment, during nights when everyone else was celebrating, or forgetting I existed. Within 24 hours, the post had 5,000 likes. Within a week, I had 3 VC meetings scheduled. Within 2 months, I had seed funding, a UX designer named Layla who worked magic in Adobe XD, and a Slack channel called Backpack Rebellion, that served as both our dev hub and the running joke that kept us grounded. And then came the day I knew everything had changed. March 15th. I was invited to speak on a tech panel for first-gen entrepreneurs. I showed up in a thrifted blazer and my lucky boots, expecting to be the quiet guy on the end with 1 or 2 comments. Instead, they made me the closer. When I walked on stage, the moderator introduced me as Ryder Thompson Walker, founder of Bagdrop, one of the fastest-growing creator tools of the year. Bagdrop. Yeah. I named it after the damn backpack. Turned the punchline into the brand. I told the audience my story. Not polished. Not sugar-coated. Just real. And when I finished, they stood. Not because I was a genius. Not because I had millions. But because I spoke what too many of them had lived, being overlooked, underestimated, dismissed by the people who were supposed to believe in you first. Backstage, I opened my phone. One new message. From Dad. "We watched your panel. Proud doesn't even cover it. You were always going to do big things. We just didn't see it in time." I stared at that sentence for a long time. Then typed. "Thanks. Simple. Controlled. Mine." Later that night, Mason called me. Said he'd been telling everyone at work he was the brother of the Bagdrop guy. I laughed. "You earned that backpack," he said. "But you made it mean something. That's the difference." He wasn't wrong. And yet, for all the change, my startup, the recognition, the shift in power, there was one moment that hit harder than any standing ovation. A week later, Mom sent me another photo. This time, it wasn't old. It was new. She was standing in the garage. Next to the backpack. The same one. She'd mounted it in a shadow box. Below it, a small plaque. "Sometimes the thing they give you isn't the gift. What you do with it is." Part 7, this is the final part. It was nearly a year to the day since I walked out of my parents' house carrying that used backpack and the sharp silence of being forgotten. The email came late at night, subject line. "Dinner?" No fanfare. No guilt. Just 3 sentences. No speeches. No surprises. Just dinner, if you're open to it. So I went. Same house. Same front steps. But everything felt different. Maybe it was me. Maybe it was the fact that I parked my own car, my car, next to Dad's truck and Mason's now slightly dented Tacoma and felt zero shame. I'd made it here on my own. Inside, the table was set for 5 again. Mason greeted me like nothing had ever fractured. Eliza, his girlfriend, hugged me. Mom pulled out my chair without comment. Dad poured me water and asked how bag drop was doing. No tension. No tiptoeing. Just a family trying, imperfectly, to be something new. Over dinner, Mason brought up the truck. I told them they got it wrong, he said suddenly, eyes down. Not just the gift. All of it. Mom reached out, placed her hand gently on the table. We're still learning, she said. We got caught up in what we thought mattered. And forgot to see who mattered. I didn't need an apology by then. I'd built something better than validation, peace. And just before dessert, Dad slid something across the table. It wasn't money. It was a frame. Inside, a photo of that original backpack in the shadow box. Underneath, he'd written, Your story changed us. Thank you for not staying quiet. I didn't cry. But I looked up and saw Mom was already wiping her eyes. Mason looked proud. Not guilty. And for the first time in my entire life, I felt it, balance. Not perfection. Just truth, owned by all of us. That night, back in my apartment, I hung the framed photo next to my degree and the first $10 check bag drop ever earned. Different symbols of the same victory. The used backpack? It never left. It sits on a shelf in my office now. Not as baggage. As proof. Of what happens when you stop waiting to be seen, and start making damn sure they can't look away.